recommendation is, again, an advisory committee. Let's look at these samples and see which one and which pieces fits for us.
Yep, we've already struck ad hoc committees before without quite so much deliberation. I would like to be able to put enough flexibility in there that if an ad hoc committee says, geez, you know what, we need some more people, we need this and we need that, they can come back and say, perhaps we need to expand this or not, or it might be fine the way they're going. We're talking about all of Lambton Shores, but we don't want to make it so cumbersome and so big that, you know, nothing's going to get done except infighting, whatever, but we need to be able to strike something. It's a simple committee. We've got pretty well a template which we've been using elsewhere.
Doug.
Thank you. I think you hit the nail on the head. When you look through these templates, they have one thing in common, and it's what we've been reading in municipal world now for months: strategic partnership. That's what it's all about. And you've got to take the people in your community, the business people, the retired people with expertise, and you've got to form a team approach, a collaborative approach that says 9 people can't do it alone. Right? And so in terms of the next steps, I don't know what we need to drag out here. I mean, if we could all come back, I guess, with a suggested terms of reference. As I said, I think it's all here. I think you want to talk about where do you want to go from here. I can't see another meeting saying, let's get a terms of reference. It's here. Mm-hmm. Where do you want to go from here?
Well, yeah. Well, before we were looking at possibly 2 to 3 councillors and 11 to 12 citizens, broad-based, from retail, tourist, agriculture service, people who have been established here for many years and people who haven't been established here for many years. It's important to get the new needs as well as the old needs. It would be nice to have familiar and some youth encouraged in there. When I say youth, I don't mean 14. I mean, you know, under 50. You know, we'll go for that, right? But we'll see. We could set it out there, and we can look at our applicants if we get any. I'm sure we will, because this is a very, very important issue. And then we can deliberate as we go along.
Yes, I have heard that it's wise to limit committees to 12 or less people. So I'm wondering whether we should consider working within a 12-member scope.
Sounds good. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
I think the committee needs to have TSL and SLEP both on the committee, possibly somebody from the culture.
John?
I think I'd like to give them the freedom to define not size, not TSL, or anything. I'd like to just give these two the freedom to put an ad in the paper saying we would like certain people from these sectors, we'd like your input to this process within, you know, and please do a quick 1/2-page resume about what you could contribute to this, your, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I think we're looking at geographical, we're looking at businesses, we're looking at, but get some people around you quickly. And I'll just, from my experience with economic development back in the 90s, and I know we're not supposed to go in history, we heard that from your co-chair already, but I'll just say that one of the interesting things was that we had it set as a committee, but we had this sort of ultra thing which was revolving, which allowed our partners from Kettle Point to come and go whenever they wanted, which is weird. I know that sounds weird, but in fact that worked for them, and that meant that they were part of it from day one. Do you know where I'm going? And what I'm saying is it's one thing to say we've got to have rules, right? And I understand them, and I think Ruth knows how I think about rules. But the fact of the matter is the rules give us structure, okay? But what I want, personally, what I want in something like this is the freedom to be creative. And how that creativity comes is because you allow for not being too strident about your rules. So set up the small thing at the start, which gives you to go to that first goal you've got, which comes back to us for the terms of reference, and then we can start to the next step, which I think is having those things. I think we talked about in October, Ruth, about sampling went on really well a couple of years back when you did it for communities. You have these, what did you call them?
Well, the round tables.
Yeah, so but you got to have the start so that you can go to these round tables with something, but we need to start now, get that ad in the paper.
Well, I agree with John, and I think when you do put the ad out, we all know who the person in your community is who should be approached. You know, whether they're going to do it or not, I think that's where it comes down to us to say, you know, nudge, wink there. You know, there's something that maybe you should look at. When somebody who thinks outside the box, whether they're proficient in something, whether they're good at advertising, whatever it is that they do, that's the person you want to encourage them to.
I encourage.
Well, once again, that's fantastic, and that's where we're going to have to go. But for that to happen, we need to ask a question. have an ad hoc committee, we need a question to ask them first, so that they know exactly what they're getting involved with and what they're expected to be able to answer. And that's why I put down, I would like to conduct exploratory research in order to present economic development strategies to the municipal council of Lantern Shores to provide information for direction to the strategic plan. This allows it broader so that they can go in all different directions, but it's also restricted enough so that it doesn't go out of hand. We don't want something that is a question that's so broad-based that people don't have anywhere to grab on hold to. So this will bring everything back to our strategic plan, and it will give us possibilities, right, strategies, options.
Just to piggyback on to what John said, would you please do some of us a favor? More than geographic, I think we need a demographic representation. This municipality is 10 years over the median age in Ontario and $10,000 under the median income. I'd like you to see a broad base in socioeconomic groups, and please get a senior or a retiree member on this committee, because they seem to be the forgotten people a lot of the time when they've been paying the bills.
Elizabeth?
Yes, two thoughts about logistics. One is, if indeed we pick 3 people from council beyond that, could I recommend that the mayor and our chair and deputy and our assistant chair be the 3 representatives on the committee? But I think all of us should do what John was suggesting, and we draw up our half-page bio of all of our expertise that we could bring to the committee. So then you have a reference point. Maybe there's things that you don't know about us, our little resume that says, you've done all these kind of things and you could benefit from that, and we would be a resource to you as you ask questions within that context too.
The bonus to what we have at this table here is the variety of things that people have done in our community. So I think you're right. I mean, it might not even hurt to have some of our senior staff put some of that stuff down as well too, so that Brent, for example, and hello and welcome to Lantern Shores, by the way. You know, we don't know a lot about you, right, at this point. So maybe if we have some expertise even from our senior staff, and they know their staff, so if they want, you know, we could go to our John Byrne and say, you know, this is what we're having trouble with. He might say, well, you know what, Roberta is really good at that. She's on this, and this. She might be a great key person to go to. Or Carol might be that key person, or whatever. So there's a lot of broad base out there that we can go above and beyond a committee without even having to do that. Yes, sir.
Well, that brings up the next thing. So now we have a proposed possible question, which seems broad. We're starting to create the idea of a formation on how an ad hoc committee is going to look. But I think we have to look at staff resources as well, and what we're willing to put to this project, and what it can easily get out of hand. So we don't want that to happen either. So some staff resources that are reasonable and able to be able to work with people. It's important. Now, the idea of the CV, like a half page from each of us, is brilliant, because if a ad hoc committee wants to be able to talk to a council and say, could you, for instance, we have a meeting somewhere, could you do a task force or something and find out this information for us in this area or whatever, could you facilitate a meeting or something like that? This is important information we need to know.
Just going to Marty's point about staff resources. Are there staff resources currently within the BIA or the Chamber of Commerce that we could use for this? Because they would already have this background knowledge.
The only trouble I can see with BIA and the resources within those organizations, like Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that, is that they're regional by nature. And I want to also have a perception that we are going to one group or another. I don't want that happening. If we go to a staff, I know it's a stretch on the staff, is going to, again, or at least one of them, it's going to be a bit of a stretch again for this and a bit of homework. But it keeps us at arm's length. And if they can identify resources within those organizations we can utilize to be able to take that load off them, that's another question. That's another way of doing it. If we go right in off the bat asking them to be given resources and things like that for this project of ours without it being regional, I don't want it to be perceived that we're going down a road. Again, we don't want to know what the answer is.
No.
We have to go in naively. That's what I mean by naively. If we already know what the answer is, then why bother? We have to go in saying, well, we're not exactly sure what the answer is. Here's the question. Go out, find out. If it comes out and it's absolutely what we thought all along, great. But you know what we have now? We have data to support that conclusion and that assumption. If it isn't, well, that could be a surprise to everybody. And that might, and if it's a change in what people's mindsets are, that's going to be a hell of a big resistance, especially if you think, oh, this is the way it is.